Um,
This One's Wife, The Devil's Handler, How Markus Anderson Made Meghan Markle. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Consider, if you will, This One's Wife. I know a lot of you don't like her, but try to be as objective as you possibly can and cast your mind back to when she first appeared in the minds of many people in 2016 when she was announced as Prince Harry's girlfriend. Prior to that, most of you won't have heard about her. Indeed, I realised much later that I had seen her in Horrible Bosses as she played a FedEx girl. But I didn't immediately go, oh, hang on a second. This lady that I'd met and also is now the beau of Prince Harry, she was in Horrible Bosses. She didn't stand out. And hitherto, despite what she likes to think as she revises history, most people had not heard of her. But when she appeared in 2016, what did you see? A moderately attractive woman. Neither stunning, you wouldn't call her ugly. You probably would think that she was Caucasian. You might think there was something a bit Mediterranean about her. There's a slight swarthiness to her features, and you would later learn that she was biracial. But it didn't stand out immediately. I think that's fair to say. She was a jobbing actress, not one that many people had heard of at all, and not somebody that was particularly competent at it. And that's what you'd got. A woman who was a jobbing actress, who had come from a reasonable background, primarily supported by her father, that was moderate in looks, and also ran a blog. How was it that that woman suddenly married a prince in the most famous British royal family? Well, there are those, of course, that believe that she's some form of plant by the intelligence services that was placed there in an attempt to destabilise the British monarchy. It's a view. You can make your own mind up as to whether there is any actual evidence that supports that. There are others that form the view, well, it was just simple happenstance. She was on the lookout for a British gent, connections were made, and she was obviously spending a bit of time flirting with Piers Morgan, but that all went up shit creek, and she was introduced to Prince Harry, and the rest, they say, is history. She probably got down on her knees, demonstrated her sucking a golf ball through 40 feet of hosepipe talent, and that secured the deal for old dim-witted Prince of Pink Pancakes. Then again, the fact that she was so readily put together with Harry has, quite understandably, caused many people to think, it seems rather convenient, doesn't it, that just so happened that she was on the lookout for a British gent that was well off. You'll recall that there was the suggestion that she was trying to ensnare Ashley Cole, the footballer, who didn't have any interest in her. But it's odd that she was able to get her hands on Prince Harry. How did this come about? One of the most likely occurrences is that somebody put This One's Wife and Harry together, not in the sense of her being some form of CIA plant, but rather that she was utilised as a prostitute, an escort, and that Harry was a John, that he was a customer but didn't realise it, and that this was brought about as a consequence of the behaviours of one Markus Anderson. In the underbelly of elite social clubs where celebrities mingle with the wealthy, few figures loom as large or as enigmatic as Markus Anderson. For over a decade, it may well be the case that Anderson has been the invisible architect of this one's wife's ascent from a mediocre mid-tier actress on Suits to a self-styled global humanitarian and Duchess consort. Beneath the veneer of friendship and high society introductions, there may lie a darker reality. Anderson isn't just this one's wife's best friend or second most important man after Prince Harry. He is her handler. Now, pausing there is absolutely no way that this one's wife would have achieved what she has achieved on her own. Why? She's a haphazard mid-range narcissist. Her looks are average, perhaps above average on certain occasions. She's vacuous. She's not particularly intelligent. She's superficial. She doesn't, for instance, have any interesting hobbies. One gains the impression that initially she can bat the old eyelashes and be flirtatious sufficiently with a man who's perhaps got one thing on his mind, so that she's quite good at roping people in. One wouldn't imagine there's much there to sustain her. Furthermore, as I have demonstrated time and time again, she is not some Machiavellian uber-villain that has plotted and planned her way through. She's useless. This is why we've seen her fuck up over and over again. How every single thing that she's turned her mind to, she's failed at. Because she simply hasn't got the ability and the talent, and her narcissism gets her into position but can't keep her in position, which results in these cock-ups. Accordingly, as this haphazard mid-range type A narcissist, it's inconceivable that she would have been able to achieve this on her own. Furthermore, when you look at the ascent of this one's wife, you notice a particular pattern. People are drawn in, used, and then put to one side, either remaining on the shelf or disengaged from. And it has to be said that this one's wife has a greater number of disengagements compared to most narcissists. Many just move people on and off the shelf, family members, friends, colleagues. Not her. The cast of Suits, invited to a wedding but not the evening do, never heard from her again. Ninaki Priddy, childhood friend, dispensed with. Jessica Mulrooney, cast to one side. Naturally, she disengages from the like of Trevor Engelson, Corey Vitiello, other people such as that. But we've also seen her disengage from her father and her two half-siblings. Wider family members have been disengaged from. You never hear from the wider Ragland clan. The uncle that obtained the internship for her in Argentina didn't bother with him ever again. We have seen a pattern that's particularly prevalent with her, whereby many people who have come into her life, leaving aside the intimate partner primary sources, those non-intimate secondary source friends, family members, colleagues, which also includes employees, look at the turnover there. She draws them in, utilises them and disengages from them. And yet, Markus Anderson continues to endure. Now that could be because he only has intermittent involvement with her, which means he doesn't risk threatening her need for control that results in her having to disengage from him because he causes a disengagement trigger. It might simply be that they're not together often enough, and he pops up from time to time, but he isn't with her so often and hasn't done anything that would merit the disengagement. So it's possible that that's why he has been hanging around for the many, many years that they have had a friendship. But it is unusual, and particularly so, because as I just mentioned, someone like this one's wife has a rather high number of disengagements among the secondary sources, which you don't ordinarily see with most narcissists. Part of it is because she has moved through the different strata, as I've explained before, whereas many narcissists of her ilk stay within a particular strata. They keep similar numbers of friends and family, swapping them in and out a little bit, but more moving them on and off the shelf rather than necessarily disengaging. She has moved upwards, at least in her mind, and to some extent that is true. And that has meant that people have been left behind because she sees no further purpose for them, and they become troublesome. But not Markus Anderson. You might argue, why does she need to bother with him? She bagged the prince. Even if he was instrumental in allowing that to happen, a narcissist such as this one's wife would essentially say, yep, so long, thanks for all the fish. Yeah, I don't need you anymore. Subconsciously, her narcissism says, he got us the prince, we don't need him, get rid. But she hasn't. There has been no disengagement. And that could be as a consequence of the fact that he has a much greater role in her life than people necessarily realise. And it may also be that he has information on her, which means that her narcissism dare not go to disengagement because of what would happen thereafter. The fact is, for Markus Anderson to have hung around for as long as he has done so, this shadowy figure that dips in and out of her life as a secondary source, with rumours of potential intimacy, but nothing confirmed, and let us assume that he is a non-intimate secondary source. The fact that she has disengaged so many secondary sources but not him suggests that there is something much darker about their relationship. It suggests that he is a handler, a Soho House operative who has generated her access to power, influence, and potentially compromising encounters. That he functions in effect as her pimp, facilitating yacht girl arrangements that echo the Epstein-Maxwell playbook. Markus Anderson, his origin story is in effect the stuff of calculated reinvention. Born around 1978 in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, he dropped out of college and landed a gig as a waiter at Soho House's London outpost in his late teens. Soho House, founded by Nick Jones in 1995, bills itself as an exclusive creative community for artists, actors and influencers. Think a global chain of velvet rope lounges from London to Mumbai, where membership costs thousands annually and access is vetted by insiders like Anderson. Starting as a bartender, Anderson quickly rose through the ranks, perhaps demonstrating a keen ambition and a desire to get ahead no matter what the cost. He then became global head of membership by the mid-2010s. What was his role? Vetting elites, arranging private events, and ensuring the club's aura of exclusivity doubles as a networking hub for the powerful. This position made him indispensable to an ambitious newcomer like this one's wife, who he met in 2011 at Soho House Toronto while she filmed Suits. Back then, she was a 30-year-old actress scraping by in Canada's entertainment scene, and found Anderson to be a ticket to A-list circles. He was the one that introduced her to Jessica Mulrooney, wife of Canadian TV host Ben Mulrooney. He was the one that introduced her to designer Misha Nunu, and also to even Amal Clooney. Those connections were naturally obtained by way of character trait acquisition by this one's wife to fast-track her social cachet. On her defunct blog, The Tig, at the time this one's wife gushed about Markus. "What would I do without you, my loving, supportive and endlessly fun friend?" It was effusive praise indeed for a man who, by all accounts, controlled our access to Soho's inner sanctum. But his influence extended beyond mere introductions. He managed this one's wife's media during high-profile moments, like her 2019 New York baby shower, where he shielded her from paparazzi and recommended her PR guru Sarah Latham, a political fixer with ties to the Obamas. He was described as very protective as a handler, ensuring that her narrative stayed polished. By 2017, He was escorting her arm in arm at events like the Invictus Games in Toronto, where photos show that he was glued to her side, whispering to her like some kind of Secret Service agent. His private Instagram and personally low profile only go to support this handler vibe. In effect, he behaves like the ghost who makes the stars shine without stealing their light. Now, Soho House isn't just a club, it's a conveyor belt for social climbing, and Anderson used its levers for this one's wife. The chain's private rooms and global outposts facilitated her pivot from obscure cable TV actress to royal matrimony. He engineered her meeting with Prince Harry at Soho House, London. It wasn't a blind date, but it was a casual group hang with 7 or 8 mutuals, including designer Misha Nunu. Harry, a Soho member, reportedly asked Anderson to set up an opportunity to meet her. The rest, was it history? Actually, it seems more like engineered handling. Soho House thrives on high-profile pairings. Harvey Weinstein, the disgraced producer convicted of sexual assault, was a regular fixture at its locations. He used them as a hunting ground. Anderson's network overlaps with this seedy ecosystem. He hobnobs with the likes of Eddie Redmayne, Alexa Chung and Jamie Dornan, gatekeepers to fashion and film, and these introductions were currency. Nonu loaned her that infamous Givenchy wedding dress sketch, later debunked as PR spin, and Mulroney styled her early red carpets. Post her marriage to Harry, Anderson's handler role intensified. He joined her New York baby shower entourage in 2019, dining at the Polo Bar with Serena Williams, another Soho affiliate. Security footage even shows him being shoved aside by her team, only for this one's wife to pause and link arms, a visual of control and dependency. Even in exile, he's omnipresent. He was spotted with her at Paris Fashion Week in 2024. He was carrying bags like a loyal aide. He's always lurking, never starring. He turned up at the Healthy Minds gala dinner. He's often spotted with her and goes through periods of where he's nowhere to be seen and then seen repeatedly by her side. The suggestion is that he utilised her effectively as a prostitute and introduced her to Harry. Harry, dimwit that he is, thought it was a date, and he didn't realise that in effect he was a paying customer. And the price ultimately became him and marriage. The fact is that Anderson has links to the Epstein orbit. A 2001 image from Phuket in Thailand shows a young Anderson lounging poolside with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and a shirtless Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Hands behind head, legs crossed in smug repose. This one's wife's own history amplifies this connection. She's been repeatedly dogged by yacht girl whispers, allegations of escort-like gigs on luxury vessels. A 2014 tweet from one Adam Horn publicly inquired if she was available for a week in Croatia with friends, framing it as a jest but hinting at availability. It suggested that Anderson arranged such outings, positioning her for use in Epstein-adjacent elites. David Boies, Virginia Giuffre's lawyer in the Andrew Mountbatten suite, reportedly eyed this one's wife for deposition in 2021, citing her Soho House Epstein overlaps. It's queried whether this one's wife attended the Epstein parties that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor were at, which echoed a 2025 Daily Mail report on Soho House rosé bottles customised for Markus Anderson's birthday, which was evoking social butterfly euphemisms for actual procurers. Soho House has hosted Weinstein's predatory hunts. Its private rooms, where Harry and this one's wife dated, are ideal for discreet trysts. Anderson's role in her bachelorette party there wasn't innocent fun. It was a controlled environment for last-minute opportunities. his repeated presence, more latterly at the Dodgers game, Sans Kids, the Paris dinners, Monte Shit family outkins, the pumpkin patch, screams oversight, a handler keeping an eye on the asset. There are rumours, of course, that Anderson is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's illegitimate son from a 1977 Lakefield College fling. Him born in Peterborough mirrors the timelines. This would also explain his Epstein proximity and this one's wife's Andrew First Royal claims that were being made. Invictus Game engagements in Toronto reek of money laundering, with Anderson's shadow looming over it. Her Netflix flops omit him for deniability, but again, he's viewed as her handler for the nefarious goings-on. As is often the case with these matters, you won't find a smoking gun whereby there is a contract between the two of them confirming that he's going to pimp her out and that she's going to be utilised for the purposes of drawing in wealthy and powerful men through sexual favours. But rather it's joining the dots as a consequence of the associations and the networks that are involved in, and also addressing this question. How on earth does a haphazard mid-range type A narcissist, who hitherto was relatively unsuccessful, virtually unheard of, and not particularly attractive, suddenly find herself linked to a British prince? Albeit the spare, but nevertheless, how does that happen? She didn't cause it to happen, somebody else did. And that person will be Markus Anderson. She is an asset to him. I don't think that it's necessarily any plot whereby it's designed to bring down the British royal family or any such like. It strikes me as not only somewhat far-fetched, but also unlikely to actually occur, but rather opportunism for the purposes of gaining money. That a deal was struck that benefits both Anderson and this one's wife, and he continues to maintain an eye over her because he has a vested interest in her, that he has obtained considerable cachet at being the one that secreted the yacht girl into the British royal family, and the idiot that allowed her to get in was, of course, Harry, who was thinking with little Harry rather than anything else, with the consequence that she was able to lure him in. I do not doubt that there's compromising material that involves Harry, which means that he has to tolerate this one's wife and also Markus Anderson, that in effect Harry has been grifted by his wife and Anderson for financial gain, that this one's wife, motivated by her narcissistic need as a somatic narcissist for money, which is a residual benefit, believed Harry to be far richer than he actually was, and in essence saw him as a mark, and that she utilised the one weapon that she has, spicy poontang, and handled by Anderson, who effected the introduction. The trap was set. Harry was lured in, Harry was captured, and you know the rest. What are your thoughts on the matter, valuable viewers? Do you see him as the handler of this one's wife, the one that orchestrated the introduction, that brought the two of them together and continues to have oversight over his asset? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.